Thank you all for coming. It's very important that you leave with a new friend. Make sure that you walk away at the end of tonight, not only with a gem of wisdom that will enhance your life, but make sure you walk away with somebody else's phone number that you'll get together with, you'll go for a coffee, you'll go for Shabbos with, something, okay, it'll be great. I'm not going to save no introductions. One of the people who was very, very tremendously impactful in my life, Rabbi Noach Orlowek, who I first had the wonderful merit of meeting when I was 17 years old, and Rabbi Orlowek used to come to Aisha Torah on Thursday nights, and when Rabbi Orlowek used to come, and I was by far the youngest one in my class, and I did not understand a word that Rabbi Orlowek said. And everyone said, "Oh, he's so fantastic, he's so great." And for years and years it kind of went that way, and then really it was after I left yeshiva, and then I started learning Rabbi Orlowek's talks, and his tapes, and his books, and everything. And I needed those few extra years to incubate before I said, now I get it all. Now I get it. And so thank you, Orlowek, for your impact. Thank you. The only problem with bringing Rav here to speak is that people are going to assume that you're just plagiarizing me. That's a little thing. But at any rate, the basic structure tonight is we'll be speaking on the first topic for a period of time, 45-ish minutes or so. We'll have a few minutes for questions, 10 minutes for questions. Then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll do the next topic, and then some time for questions, and then those people who want to stay and have some issues, so then people can certainly take a few minutes of Rav's time and gather as much as you can. And then Rabbi Orlowek will be speaking also tomorrow morning at 7:30 for a little bit as well. Those who can come, or everyone as well.
I want to thank you for being such a welcoming community to my child. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
My honor for being here. What you have is called a handout. It's the only kind of handout you ever have to have in your life. What this is how I thought through the question. It's a process, okay? I did not download it from anywhere. It was thought through for you. And this was the subject Rabbi gave me. So, the subject is transferring your values to your kids. Now, before we even begin, I mentioned somewhere, I think after we had to talk after Mincha, that one of my children said that when he was a teenager, there's no education going on in our house. Why? Everybody's different. All my kids are different. And I said to him, thank you for the compliment. They're all different. They are different. And they all get along. My values, I don't want my child to be a carbon copy of me. I want him to be him. It doesn't work. Trying to make someone else over in your image, because he's not in your image. He or she is not in your image. But there's certain life truths that I hold to be precious. I want them to at least consider them. It is the dream of every parent that their child outlive them. That means my boy, my girl, is going to be on this planet without me. I want them at least to think about what would Abba would have said. What would he have said? Sometimes they'll agree, sometimes they'll disagree. That's okay. But when I talk about values, I talk about the things, in Hebrew, the word for life in Hebrew is always in the plural. Chaim is always plural. Chaim arukim, chaim beruchim, it's always in plural. Emet, truth is in singular. Truth is like white light going through a prism. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's yellow, but it's all the same white light. So the values is that white light. I came to Kennedy Airport, and I consistently am the only person in the airport who's bringing any food into the United States. No one else in all of Kennedy Airport, all the arrivals, no one else is at agriculture, except me. It's amazing. I said, because I'm bringing food. Especially Orthodox Jew travels without food. Like, come on now. So I told her, I'm not going to sign a false document to the federal government. Not because I'm afraid they're going to send me to Death Valley. It's not good for me. It's not good for me. That's invaluable. My older brothers, not my she, they're there for to torture their younger sisters. That's what older brothers were created for. So he told one of my younger daughters that she was adopted. He was, I think, 7 and she was 5. He was the oracle of all truth, you understand, to this little kid. So she ran into her room, threw herself on the bed that used to be hers, bemoaning the traumatic loss of a family that she's now lost. So I sat down next to her and I said, there's nothing wrong with being adopted. You happen to be our 9th child, why would we adopt you? It didn't help. It didn't help. She's still crying away. I said to her, Chayesara, I promise you you're not adopted. That was the end of it. She had never heard her father say that word in her life. Promise? Promise? That's the value. That's the value. So, that's what, at least in my head, that's what I mean when I use the word value. Now, you don't have, ESP, so I have to tell you that's what I mean when I say values, okay? First of all, you have a task. You asked me to help you perform a certain task to transfer values to your kids. So, what are the questions you have to ask yourself? I never gave this book before. But these things, this is no. I thought it through again. We have, our brains have to keep working. Yeah? What are those traditional values that you want? Can you identify them? What are they? Don't just tell me values. Have good values. It's like telling a kid to cross the street safely. Like, what does that mean? You have to spell it out. Are these values prioritized? Is everything matter? In discipline, people have to discipline. You have red lines. You have 50 red lines. Yeah. So then the house is a minefield. So you're just going to have conflict all the time. You have to prioritize what really matters to you. What's really most important. Wisdom is the ability. I heard from a very wise man. This man, I worked for him for 3 years. He was a genius's genius. He came in 1946. He came from Shanghai, China. He was there for the war. He didn't speak any English. Nothing. So how did Rabbi Berman learn English? He memorized the dictionary. His son-in-law told me, who I work with now, there was a fire in a room. Rabbi Berman ran out into the hall and said, "Conflagration!" He was the only guy who knew what a conflagration was. Because to him, it's on the same line in Webster's as fire. That was Rabbi. That was a genius. Yeah? He said, he told me the definition of wisdom is to know what's important and what's more important. Everything matters. But the ability to prioritize. Okay? The third question you have to ask yourself is, do you have any plan on how they can be conveyed? You're going to tell your child, you're going to explain to your child, it doesn't work. I told you 100 times, so maybe tell them 101 times. Explaining things rationally, reasoning with a child doesn't work. It's not his language. And people get all bent out of shape. I told you, I explained to you. It's not his language. I came into Shire Tzedek Hospital. I had just had at that time, a granddaughter. I wanted to visit my daughter-in-law, and she wasn't there. And he was out. This kid was making her presence felt. So they said to me, "Shilcha, is this yours?" So, grandchildren are like children. So I picked the child up. Now, there are 2 ways of getting Chaya Rivka to be quiet. I can explain to her, she's disturbing the peace. It's not nice. I'll buy you a trip around the world if you quiet for 10 nanoseconds. That's one way to go. Or you can take the child, hold the child firmly, get some firm pressure, not too hard on the abdomen. You sway back and forth, and happy tune. You hold her head because the neck muscles are not strong at that age. Yes, you have to hold the head, and you sway back and forth, and you hum. So that's what I did. Why? Because touch and music and how you feel is nonverbal. It talks to the emotion. She's 100% emotion, this 3-day-old person. Okay? One of the ways we define maturity is when emotion and intellect start getting balanced. Kids are emotional. Their language is nonverbal. So you explain, it's not the language. So how are you going to convey your value to your children? How are you going to do that? You're not going to convey it by speaking to them, by lecturing to them, by telling them. That's not going to work. So the only way is to be that. Of course, the sense of sight touches the emotion. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist. I have nothing against psychologists because my wife is one. Okay? But it happens to me that I'm not. So if what you hear sounds like psychology, it's not. It's Torah. If I do draw on something psychological, so then I'll tell you. Okay? It's just not, that's all. It isn't Torah. The sense of sight is what stirs our emotions. I'll bring you, my definition of a rabbi. I can connect anything and everything to the weekly reading in the Torah. Yeah, that's the definition of a rabbi. Moses threw the tablets down. The Vilna Gaon says this. He threw the tablets down when he saw the golden calf. He had very good information. He knew about it already. Why did he wait for? Because the emotion is energized by the sense of sight. When he saw it, then he broke the tablets. Kids are emotional. They are affected by what they see. Okay? It's the nonverbal part of speech. You'll say to a child, I love you. I love you. It's worthless. I said it very clearly. It's actually not worthless. It's less than worthless. Yeah. So you have to. How are you going to do this? Four, do we exemplify them? That means those values. And five. Why is it more of a challenge today? Indeed, is it? Because the fact that your rabbi asked me to talk about this, it means it's current events. He wouldn't ask me to talk about, I don't know the monitor and the back. Anybody here knows what I even meant when I no. That just came into my head. Nothing. I haven't been reviewing the Civil War or something. You know something? I'm not sure if it's more of a challenge today. I'm not sure. We just have short memories because we don't live for 500 years. But in the early 1900s, you were a good, upstanding, idealistic person. You became a socialist. You understand? It was rampant. How many socialists here? How many communists in the room? Any Hellenists? You understand? We had this. This is not new, but it is more of a challenge today. Why? Because the world has become a place that values technology and speed, gratification, quickly. If you don't know how to handle all of these machines, so then you lost stature. Also, the world is a place today, if the challenge was once communism or Hellenism or anything else you wanted to talk about, today, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel good. I want to enjoy. Now, I want to tell you something, since I'm leaving town tomorrow anyway. When you ask your child constantly, did you enjoy school today? Did you enjoy your supper? You use the word enjoy a lot. And then you want to discipline him. He doesn't enjoy that. And you taught him that everything is enjoy. You taught him that. Did you enjoy it today? How do you enjoy your lunch today? Did you enjoy that film? Did you enjoy your play day? The word enjoy is one of our most used words today. It has crept into our culture that we measure things by how good does it feel. That's not true. We don't measure things by how, because heroin feels good also, they tell me. Yeah? A lot of things feel good. There are a lot of things that feel good that are illegal or were illegal. Feeling good is not the big all and end all of things. It's a problem. Because when a person just wants to feel good, you know what that means? It means he's living in the present. Because feel good is a present feeling. Unless you can teach someone to feel good at working towards something. That's different. But is it more of a challenge today? Not more of a challenge. I see two sides. It could be it is. It could be it is.
Is feeling good not working towards something a bad thing?
Feeling good not working towards something is not a bad thing if it's a small percentage. It's like 7-layer cake. If it's a small percentage of what makes you feel good, so then feeling good now in the present is a good thing. But if feeling good in the present doesn't produce anything more than that, you can feel good in the present and it energizes you for later on, then feel good in the present. You know why? Because that present isn't dead present, it's future also. But if it begins and ends now, like 7-layer cake, there's a place for 7-layer cake in life, unless you're diabetic, so then it might be a smaller piece. Yeah? Okay? But there's a place for that. But it shouldn't be a big place. You know, one of the things I teach my students in, I brainwash my students in Jerusalem, is two things. One is don't do something because it's easy, and don't not do something because it's hard. It's static. It's easy to do, so why should I do it? I came into the airport, so my son said to me, there's $1. Just put $1 in one of these, yeah, and as I said, no. It's easy to do, but why should I? By the way, you know what you learned from a slot machine? I know what the function of a slot machine is. A slot machine lets you win some of the time, and that sweet memory keeps you going. We have to remember and treasure our successes. They keep us going. That's what you learn from a slot machine. Once in a while you win, and it keeps you going. That's right, it should. But not that. Yeah. But a slot machine is a lesson of encouragement, of success. You keep going. So, you don't do things because it's easy, you don't not do things because it's hard, and nothing in life that's really worth doing is not hard. Everything's hard. Everything's a process. Everything takes time. Things take time. Anything worth doing takes time. How do you keep going, which is not our subject, is treasure small accomplishments. When a small accomplishment means something to you, so you keep going. But if only the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, then eventually you get tired. Okay. Let's look at some principles that we need to know about children, and we need to know about life. Yeah, I'm way over prepared. There's way too much here. Sorry. These principles are ways that you to know about children is to know how to know their language. I walked into a store in Brooklyn, and I needed a pen. And I said, can I have a pen? They gave me a blank stare. And they said, Puma. and I got my pen. He knows what a pluma is, but he doesn't know what a pen is. That's okay. His language is Spanish. I speak to him in his language. I will get results. Children are dominant emotion. Their language is emotion. And therefore, they learn from what they see and not what they hear. They are affected deeply by nonverbal communication. For instance, I told you 1,000 times. You know what that means? You kid, you're deaf. That's the message. It's a nonverbal message. The verbal message is I told you 1,000 times. The nonverbal message is you're dense. The nonverbal messages go in much deeper. There's a thing called subliminal advertising. It's illegal. Why? There's no defense against it. Right? It flash on the screen for 10,000ths of a second, drink Coke. You go drink Coke. It's illegal because I can't.
They do it here in the United States?
They do it. Well, it's still illegal. Illegal doesn't mean they don't do it, but it's unless they change the law. I doubt if they change the law. Yeah? Do you know the signs on the highway? It's also subliminal. Because if you see it enough times, you don't see it anymore. That's what they're paying for. The message. You see Coca-Cola signs all over the globe. Drink Coke. So when I see it and I say no, I did have some tonight. I said, can I have a little poison? I have a little poison, and she knew exactly what I meant. Yeah? Yeah? So, it has its function. Children are affected by nonverbal communication just like we are. The messages of nonverbal communication are much deeper. They learn from what they experience and not what they're told. Kid has a temper tantrum. What you do is he wants his fifth helping at dessert. He's going ballistic because he wants his fifth helping at dessert. In London, actually, a kid actually called the police for child abuse. It happened a few years ago. They made peace. They didn't arrest anybody. So what do you do? A kid was screaming. He wants to. She says, I call it comforting the mourner. I know that ice cream, all that white sugar and artificial food coloring, it really goes down good, doesn't it? Yeah, it's good ice cream. I understand it. I understand why you want more. Accept their feelings. They're upset. They want more ice cream. That's okay. But that doesn't mean they get the ice cream. I'm so sorry. But tonight there's no more ice cream. Saying, no more ice cream for you tonight. Why you have to make a battle for it? Just there isn't. Yeah? Kids, when they experience conflict, they become conflicted. Kids, when they have temper tantrums and temper tantrums don't work, so they stop, because temper tantrums are no fun. They're very tiring, by the way. Anybody have no raising hands. But if you ever had a temper tantrum, it's tiring. Yeah? It's really tiring. So after a while, it stops. I told someone tonight, just a few minutes ago, my oldest son's first word was antigliero. He stopped using it. Why? Because no one knew what he meant. He didn't get anything out of it. Moshe's one of his first words was ninny. Ninny, he meant a pacifier. And we understood that he meant the pacifier. And he got his pacifier. So guess what? He kept using it. Because it worked. People don't keep doing things that don't work. You don't have to get angry. Don't get angry with your kids. Why? Because then the kid thinks it's personal. And he also thinks, okay, when she calms down, we'll be okay. Sleep. Eat properly. If you're a parent, sleep well. If you can't sleep enough, so sleep not enough. But sleep. Yeah? I was at his doctor's today. Moshe said to them, he needs a 10-minute nap. He knows me. He knows 10 minutes will make a difference. And he's right. I got only 7 minutes, but it was good. You take as much sleep as you can get, within as much as you need. You don't have to sleep more. You eat properly. Complex carbohydrates, small meals, a lot of water. It can be carbonated, distilled, tap. Yeah, I'm very flexible. Like with salads, like in the restaurant, salads. Any kind of water you want to put on it would be okay, but don't put anything else on it. A well-told story is also an experience. It's something, if you know how to tell a story, the child is living. That makes a difference. It goes in. I teach teachers how to tell stories. Complete with the sound effects. Moshe, do you remember? That's a coyote in the middle of the story at the Shabbos table. Or that's how you tell a story, right? He can verify it's right. Yeah? He tells stories with sound effects. Yeah. Keeps kids alive. You didn't think the Rabbi was going to do that tonight, did you? Okay, you know, a story is an experience. You embellish it. The kid's living it. They're living it. Children have, that's the first point. Children have to have, in order to offset a dominant environment, because when you ask me this question, transferring your values to your kids. Yeah? Now, if everybody had those values, and those values had permeated our society, you wouldn't be asking me to talk about this. How to do something that's easy to do, you wouldn't ask me to talk about it. It means we have a dominant culture that has values that run contrary to ours. Okay? I'm not talking about religion. Values. Now, religion is also a value, okay? That's a different point, yeah? To believe this room happened by itself requires a lot more faith than to say someone made it. Well, it takes a lot more faith to say the world happened by itself than to say someone made it. But Moshe Selengut went to Russia in the 60s, early 70s. He taught Torah, and he was teaching a professor from Moscow University, of course, quietly, whose expertise was probability. He asked him, what's the probability that this world happened by itself? The whole universe just happened by itself. He says the number is too big. You need a piece of paper from the Earth to Pluto. If it's a planet, not a planet, doesn't matter. Yeah? Piece of paper, extend the 1 in. That's the likelihood of it happening by itself. The Earth spinning at a certain rate, at a certain distance from the sun. It's like, yeah. So I said, well, what's the probability of a creator? He said, in Russia, we don't talk about a creator. So if you have only one choice, then that's the choice. But you have to have faith, belief, and emunah that this happened by itself. Children have to have, in order to offset a dominant environment, a high self-image. You want to teach your children to be able to say no. I need for you to like me? Gosh. You want me to do X, Y, and Z in order that you should like me? You know how you say no in Israel? That's no in Israel. No, I don't need for you to like me. I don't fall apart if you're upset with me. If I have something inside. A life where they find meaning, status, and acceptance. Their world has to be a good place. Where they matter. Where they're respected. Respected means when you say something that matters to me. It takes up space in my hard drive. I remember what you tell me. Don't have to agree with you. And I don't always have to obey you, by the way. Parents should not need for their children to like them. Mother calls me up and says, her 5-year-old, Maso Menos, 5 years old, he said to her, I feel like cutting you up and putting you in the oven. What should I tell him? I said to tell the kid, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm sure glad you told me. Not for self-defense reasons. Yeah? She can handle herself as a 5-year-old. Yeah. I want a child to be able to talk. Talk. Tell me where you are. Tell me where you are. Then we can work things out. We may disagree. And by the way, I'm the parent. I have the final say. Most of the time, the child gains from speaking. Something changes. Maybe they get 1% dispensation. Something, because they spoke. It helps. Children have to speak. They have to communicate. So if they have a life where they have something, you don't leave that life to go, bandying about somewhere else. Do they have pride in who they are and what they stand for without needing to put anyone down in order to feel good? You could either feel good by building yourself up or feel good by putting someone else down. It's easier to put someone else down. But, that's a shame. Because that means you don't have any real status. There's this old thing, a bully, he feels big and strong until someone walks into the room that's a half an inch taller than him, and then he doesn't go down to number 2, he goes down to nothing. Because his whole status was by someone else's weakness. They have to be proud of who they are. A sense of belonging to something that they find meaningful. It could be a youth group, it could be a family, it could be a shul, it could be a group of friends. But they belong to something. We spoke tonight between Mincha and Marav. Every healthy human being has an individual part to them that they must never erase. You are a person like no one else in history, but you're also part of a community. A healthy community, a healthy nation, has to give quarter to, that's why Jerusalem was called the city of peace. The tribes came together, they were different, and they were meant to stay different. But they loved each other. Not despite their differences, because. I mentioned in the office that someone was dating someone in medical school. He said he wants her to drop out of medical school. So I said to him, do me a favor, marry someone else. You are bothered by the fact that she'll earn more money than you, that she'll make all medical decisions. I called up our pediatrician, and I said, could I speak to Dr. W? Well, his name started with a W. Great doctor. So the husband answered the phone and says, I'm also a doctor. He's a doctor of psychology, which is fine. That's okay. He knew darn well I didn't want to speak to him. Yeah, but he had to get his 2 cents in. Well, what about me? Look, it must be a bit hard for this man. He's one of the best pediatricians in Yerushalayim. Twice we had the kids in the emergency room. Who's your doctor? Oh, okay, you can take her home. If she's taking care of your kids, then you can take her home. So anyway, I don't get I'm happy you're successful. I want you to be more successful than me. I hope and pray my wife never learns Gemara. For that, at least I still have that over on. Yeah. Everything else, gosh, she puts me in her little pocket. Number 3, the happiness of the spirit is far greater than any physical or material happiness. Kids have to taste spiritual happiness. Putting a smile on the face of someone. People have guests. They go visit sick children. A classroom has a bigger cholin that if anyone in class is sick, they make sure they're taken care of. Kids have to learn what it means to feel the happiness of something spiritual. Physical happiness is very ephemeral. It's very temporary. Kids love to have time with parents. If this is not in their offering, then they look and find other ways than people to be with, and will sometimes do negative things in order to get parental. This is before I read the book. Yeah? Because I read the book on the way here. Yeah? And will sometimes do negative things in order to get parental attention. The truth is sometimes it's probably not correct, but that's what they do. He who shouts loudest gets the most attention kind of thing. Yeah? Snuggle up in bed and read to them. Studies have shown that Down syndrome kids, if their parents read to them, we're talking about 9 hours a day, okay? It makes a difference. But if you want your child to love reading, if you have a Jewish child and you want them to learn Torah, they have to like to read. You're raising them in Uganda, so they have to know how to pick rice. Okay? It's not so important. But if you're a Jew, we're called the people of the book, and we have to study. Yeah? The child has to love reading. How does a kid learn to love reading? When he's 3 days old. Start at 3 days, it's okay. You know, mothers, Any mothers here ever talk to a 3-day-old child? You have a 3-day-old child, you speak to them? You expect to accomplish anything with it? You expect them to understand you? No. It's instinctive. How do you get a child to speak? By speaking to them. They don't understand you, but it's the beginning. And by the way, the sense of hearing is the first sense that's developed. They did someone had some money they didn't know what to do with, so they had a study where mothers read to their stomachs Dr. Spock's Cat in the Hat. After birth, they hooked these kids up to a device where, depending on how hard and how fast they saw, they would get a recording. Guess what they picked? Dr. Spock's Cat in the Hat in their mother's voice. They remembered it. There's been studied about Mozart, what Mozart does to the brain. Good. Yeah? I have my own personal theory of why there's so much ADD today, besides the abundance of visual entertainment. There's a statistic, if you have a 3-year-old child who sees a lot of visual entertainment, the chance of them being ADD at 7 skyrockets. Because the visual media teach a person not to focus. Because the screen keeps changing. That child wants to focus on the vase in the corner over there, but the screen keeps changing. You lose the story. You're teaching the kid not to focus. A pediatrician got up a few weeks ago in Eretz Israel, and at one of these Aish missions, I gave a clip. She said the American Pediatric Association doesn't allow, no one listens to them, she said, doesn't allow visual entertainment to kids under 2. But well, she said that's the way she's a pediatrician, that's what she said. It's not good for the kid's brain to go like that all the time at such a young age. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. You snuggle up in bed and read with a child. In the earliest days, they start to feel the happiness of reading because they have the comfort of their mother and the familiarity of the mother's voice and the mother's touch. And reading is magic. Do you know that? It's magic. I was in London in the underground, and there was a sign, way out. So I'm an American, I thought that must be a very interesting place to go. It's like, way out? It's an exit sign. I didn't catch, it was an exit sign. That's what it was. Yeah. But you know, there's a sign off of Brent Street. Is anyone here from London? I don't know. Yeah? Off of Brent Street. Yeah? In Hendon. Yeah? Not, a little bit before the Adas, before Golders Green Road starts, before North Circuit. Yeah? No fly twitting. Like, what's fly twitting? I don't think, you're torturing me. Like, I shouldn't fly twit. Don't! Or you have a double carriageway. Like, what's a double carriageway you could figure out maybe. Yeah? Fly twitting is, you don't put your garbage over here, it's private. Where you put someone else's, your own garbage in someone else's thing, that's called fly twitting. At least that's what they told me. Yeah? And, you know, what does that say? It's talking to me. If I don't know English, it's like, you know, I am enthralled with language. If I wasn't, you know, a Torah Jew, if I was a secular person, I would become a linguist. Tengo mucho amor para lenguas. It's magic. Es doch, ich kann eine Sprache machen und du verstehst die Realität. Ani מדבר איתך ואתה מבין אותי. I speak to you and you understand. To me, it's magical. I'm like a child. I hear a new word. It's like, it's just a sound. And I get across to you what I'm not. It's magic to me. Reading is magic. Just the squiggles on the page. And then when the squiggles keep saying the same thing, because kids like to hear the same story. I got off track. Why are kids so ADD today? Because the sense of hearing is the first that's developed. And today, music, Jewish Hasidic music, that's the Jewish music today. It's really rock stuff. Yeah? So that's what they're listening to. So they come out shaking, rocking, and rolling. They're coming out like that. But I can't prove that. Yeah? It's just a personal, theory. One of my daughters, I've given her Mozart and stuff to play in the house. Her kids are much calmer. they're coming. Yeah. Snuggle up in bed and read to them. They will love to read. They experience the happiness of reading before they could even before they could realize it. Some practical applications of these principles. Children learn that they have their parents' respect non-verbally. That is, when the parent pays undivided attention to the child. We multitask today. Does that mean we're more intelligent because we can do a few things at the same time? We're just diluting our attention, that's all. Do one thing at a time. I know it sounds old-fashioned, but I have a definition of a genius. A genius is someone who thinks slowly, quickly. But you think slowly, one step at a time. If you want to show someone respect, por favor, listen to them. Give them your attention. Whatever else you want to do, don't answer your phone. Don't even look to see who's calling. Just don't answer it. If you have a weak discipline, turn the phone off and show the child you are turning the phone off. You have my respect. I remember what you tell me. I am not off subject. The subject, you want to transfer your values to your kids. Well, if your kids know that you respect them, and you value them, and you understand them, and you care about them, then there's a chance that they will take your values. Okay, that's where we're coming from. Yeah. Most importantly, show respect is not a sign of weakness. Kids don't want to look weak. Why? There's a big rule in life. People want what they don't have. People who don't have money want money. People who don't have a job want a job. People who are sick want health. People who have no power want some power. That's kids. People who they don't want to look bad. They don't want to look weak. Every school teacher, every school principal knows you never discipline two kids at the same time. Because they're more worried about what the other one thinks of them than what the teacher does. They don't want to look weak. Weak people don't want to look weak. Someone sent me a statistic from the internet. There's a thing called conspicuous consumption, where people buy things in order to look like they have money. You know, poor people spend a higher percentage of their income in that kind of consumption than rich people do. Because a wealthy person doesn't have to show you he's wealthy, because he is. A poor person doesn't want you to think he's poor, therefore he'll try and do whatever he can to make sure that he doesn't look poor. Kids don't get enough respect. Kids don't have power. Why do kids throw things down from a high chair? Because they want to get you angry? No. They want to make it happen. Why do they smash things? They want to, oh, I did that. When a 2-year-old says no, teenagers and 2-year-olds, their favorite word is no. What does no mean? No means I also exist. Whatever you say, I'm going to say no because I'm here also. If I agree with you, somehow I'm weaker. Yeah? If you respect them, then they can respect you back. If you listen to them, they can listen to you back. It's not a sign of weakness. My father does it. When parents remember what the child has told them, when children speak, it makes a difference. When parents sincerely consult with children with regard to themselves, regard to their siblings. I sincerely asking your opinion. I want to know what you think about it. I'm serious. Does it mean I'll listen to you all the time? No. You take a kid to the supermarket and you discuss with the child, what do you think we should buy for dinner? And you don't give him an option of, chocolate chip cookies. That's not one of the options. But he has choices. He can make a decision. He can think about something. Where do you want to have the box where you clean up your toys every evening? Where should we put the box? It's his decision. I respect your mind. Try to understand your child's world. Don't assume that your music... No, that's not good. It's not Y-O-U apostrophe R-B. It's U, Y-O-U-R. Yeah. It's the copying machine in Las Vegas. Okay? Don't assume that your music, your sports, your entertainment was better than theirs. The whole world was better then. Who said? today we have ways of treating ADD. In the good old days, kids just got, smacked or embarrassed or told they were lazy. What was the good old days? How about the good old days before the Salk vaccine? How about that? Do you understand? What in the good old days? It was different. It was better? Don't know. We just remember the nostalgia. We just remember what was right. There are a lot of things that weren't right. When I was your age, I walked to school 2 miles in each direction. That's what I was told. You have a spoiled kid, you have a school bus, to walk to school.
Yeah.
Okay? Keep open communication. They need to feel safe to tell you what they think. As I told you before, kids need to be able to talk. Ask your pediatrician about visual entertainment. As I mentioned to you before. About 2 weeks ago, I spoke to a mission from Cleveland, Barry Feld. So she led that mission. A pediatrician got up at the end of the talk and says, no visual entertainment for the first 2 years of life. He says no one listens to that stuff. Now, those are some of the principles. If you want to transfer your values to your children, you have to do this. You have to do your homework. Now, what are those traditional values? I'll give you some examples. This world is a good place. The first lesson that Hashem taught Adam. The Mesilas Yesharim, the Path of the Just says, Hashem showed Adam around the Garden of Eden, and he said, it's a good world, don't mess it up. That was the first lesson. First lessons are the most important ones. There's a good world. The reason we think it's a bad world is because we just notice what's wrong. We don't notice what's right because, I have in my pocket a very important, wonderful document. I'm still not settled. Yeah? It's this. The U.S. passport. I told someone tonight, I was in St. Louis, 2 Russian Jews made a kiddush the week that they became citizens. And by the way, I also, Baruch Hashem, I have this also. So what is it? Okay, I have this also. Okay, I have this also. I also have some piece of black magic here, if I could find it. At least to me it is. You put your hand in a machine in Israel, and the machine says, this is Noach Orlowek's hand. I can, this. I swipe this card like that, put my hand in the thing, and this machine says it's Noach Orlowek's hand. I was like, gosh, how did they do that?
Where did you swipe it?
There's a machine in Ben Gurion Airport. You go like that, and they said, put your hand in here, and I put my hand in.
They know it's you.
They know it's me. You have to be an Israeli citizen to get it. But, yeah, gosh. How many people here are now ecstatic over the fact they don't have a toothache? Unless they had one yesterday. That's how we're built. We notice what's wrong. We notice what's wrong. I get past the border without any problems. Gosh. I come to the border once, the guy looks at me and says, when Moses died, who led the Jews to the promised land? So I said, Joshua. He said, that's right, and stamps my passport. I got a test. I got a test. Not the only time. Well, tell me, why are there so many pebbles on Jewish tombstones? Tell me, did anyone ever get asked that question? Why are there pebbles on tombstones? Okay? Oh, the answer is that it's a mark of respect to the person buried there that people have visited. Yeah? But now, the upshot was this guy had this long Italian name, and he said, oh, now I know why my father-in-law's great. Okay, But, I'm happy to go through the border. Once my hands, the machine said my hands are handled explosives. It really happened. So, I noticed these things. It wasn't true, I wasn't handling explosives. I think what happened, there's a doctor here, right?
Adam.
I don't see it so bad.
Okay. You know, I shook someone's hand before going to the airport who was taking nitroglycerin pills. Maybe that was it. Yeah, maybe that was it. Because nitroglycerin isn't explosive. Maybe that was it, but it was interesting. I'm intrigued. That's the first thing, is the world is a good place. They have to know the world is a good place. Because else, happiness is one of the factors of health, physical and emotional health. The person's success and happiness, I'm intrinsically a good person. Your kids are good, but they're good. They may do things that are not good, so correct it, that's all. You can't lose your immutable goodness. I'll give you my example. I go to any country in the world, except for Israel and the United States, they say to me, when are you leaving? Now, is that how you treat a guest? When are you leaving? The answer is, it's not my country, I can't stay. We can't stay in hell. Gan Eden is forever. It means Gan Eden is our country, yes? Gan Eden is our country. We can stay here forever, because that's where we belong. Gehenna, you don't even visit the place for 1 nanosecond. But you're not meant to stay there, because that's not you. A child has to know he's good. For many reasons, we're actually running out of time. Kids have to know if they made a mistake, they got to put a grade on an exam. All that matters is, all that means is that they got to put a grade on an exam. That's all it means. There's a book called The Optimistic Child. This is from a secular source. There's an amazing book. It's a very Jewish concept that we can't control our thoughts. He said, what's it, an optimistic kid and a pessimistic kid? An optimistic kid comes home with a 42 on a math test. He says, I got a 42. And maybe I didn't study enough. Or maybe I should give up my dreams of becoming an actuary. It's very technical. Maybe I'll have to study better next time. A pessimistic kid says, I'm stupid. I'll never know any math. It's global in himself. It's global in time. The world is a bad place. The world is not a bad place. It's a good place. The person's success and happiness, see, even Ella likes me. Hey, they do lobotomies on the stewardesses in business. I had one stewardess, the same one in business and in the economy. Oh, she was different. Oh, was she different? The person's success and happiness is related to how much of a giver I am. Teach your child the happiness in making someone else happy and giving to someone. Rav Dessler has an essay on loving kindness. It's a strive for truth. My Rabbi, a blessed memory, said this is a key to a happy life, a successful life. Make a difference to someone else. You know, you have very many occupations. A nurse, and at least in Israel, nurses get paid terribly. Why? Because there's supply and demand. Teachers, supply and demand. You understand? Psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, these are all giving trades. You could be a businessman and be a giver also, by the way. Okay? It's just you have to put more of yourself into it. But these trades by definition are giving. Yeah? Why do people do it for? Because healthy people want to give. I was with my father in Beth Israel Hospital, and had 3 heart attacks in 2 days, and I'm not qualified to say whether they have a cardiology department or not, but the phones rang too loud. That I know. And most of the calls were for me. And they woke my father up, so I had the phone disconnected. Mr. Singer on the other side of the room says to me, I'll take calls for you. So I said to him, Mr. Singer, you're a sick man. You're a sick man. I mean, I can prove it, you know. Well, you're going to take my call. He says, he said something I'll never forget. But I want to do something for someone. I want to do something for someone. I know someone who actually lives on our block, who's diagnosed with terminal cancer. And people were filing into his room. He told us to himself. and they were all saying goodbye to him. He was actually going to die. This was about 35 years ago. He's fine. Yeah, they operated, they got everything out, and he's fine.
Wow.
Baruch Hashem. But at that time, they thought it was lost. Yeah? One person came in and said, you know, there's going to be a young lady who's going to be meeting you, and a young man, they're going to shidduch. So first he said to me, I thought, what's wrong with you? I'm a sick man. And then I refused my best visitor. He gave me something to do. Your kids should be part of a home where they make a difference. Instead of a job becomes a burden, it's part of being part of a family. That's terrific. We need you around. There's a book, Marriage, by Rabbi Puskin. So I wrote it. They asked me to write the forward. Art Scroll has their own idea of how to spell my last name. Because they will never look at a Feldheim book, so they say, Phil, they spell it their way. Yeah. So I tell over a story over there that the guy says his wife wasn't home. He hadn't heard from her. She hadn't answered his calls. She came in, and he was really upset with her. Where were you? She ran into their room, threw herself on the bed, and started crying. She thought, oh boy, did I really make a mistake. Now, most of the time, men do make mistakes, okay? But this time, you know what it was? She lived in a home where no one ever noticed her. She once ran away from home. Again, negative behavior to be noticed. She ran away from home. That's right. That no one missed her. Her husband cared about the fact that she wasn't home. She was overcome with tears of joy. Okay, but don't yell at your wife anyway. Okay? Easy is not a reason to do something, and hard is not a reason not to do something. Hard can mean it takes a long time. In the long term, pleasure and high self-esteem comes from being able to do hard things. You're not willing to do hard things, you flunk out in life. Otra vez. Again, if you're not willing to do hard things, you flunk out in life. Hard has two translations. Hard means hard, and hard means it takes a long time. There are things that take a long time. Torah study is central to Torah Judaism. Study, review, and thinking things through are all hard things to do. Especially in today's world, to get someone to think. Gosh. I tell guys, look, think about it for a minute. Think about it for 30 seconds and pretend to think about it for another 30 seconds. It's serious. Hard weighs 100 times more than easy. That's what our rabbis teach us. Respect and gratitude are an integral part of a healthy human being. Yisro hosted Moshe when Moshe was a refugee. God told Moshe, go to Egypt and redeem the Jews. Did Moshe do that? He went to Yisro and asked him for permission. I understand. God just told me to go take the Jews out of Egypt. What am I going back to Yisro and asking for permission to go? That's sacrilege. It's a sin. God told you to go to Egypt. You go in the other direction? Not only is he not faulted for it, he's praised for it. You know why? Because God says, in order to go take them out of Egypt, first you have to go to Yisro and get permission. He opened his door to you. He opened his door to you. He let you stay in his home. You have to have great gratitude, because if you don't, you can't take them out of Egypt. You just can't do it. So these are integral things. Now these are we're not going to have time to do the rest of the sheet. I know I was over-prepared. Okay? It's a sign of insecurity, that's all. Yeah. But these are some of the principles, because I want to give a couple of minutes to questions. Yeah? 9 minutes, is that what it is?
Yeah, 9 minutes.
Yeah? So my boss, my wife's not here, I have to have someone to tell me what to do. And, it's better if she's female, but they can't do it, I can't have everything. Yeah? These are some of the values I think that you should want to transmit. Any questions? I'm not afraid of your questions. I have no problem saying I don't know. Yes?
So, I'm a grandmother, and I have one of my grandchildren I feel is not happy as with death. So, is there anything that a grandmother can do?
What can a grandmother do? what can a grandmother do if she feels that her grandchild is depressed? You know how you say mother-in-law in Yiddish? Mother-in-law is called a shviger. A shviger. You know, a shviger in Yiddish means to schweig, to be quiet. Bunch of schweig, if you read Shalom Aleichem. Yeah? Yeah. So a mother-in-law has to keep her mouth shut. That's her function. Yeah? So if it's your daughter-in-law, so then it's cuidado. Then you have to be careful. Okay? Grandmothers are very special because kids are more likely to feel safe with the grandmother than the mother. So, get that child to talk to you. Don't interrogate the child. Don't make the child feel that there's a summer conference going on. In the time when you take the kid out, you take the kid to eat, you take the kid for a walk, you take the kid, whatever, and you talk about life and what, and do you have anything to share with me? I see something's on your mind. Is anything on your mind? Well, I'm not going to tell your parents. Right? You don't? Unless it's life-threatening, you should not give over things that you were told in confidence. You should not. Unless it's life-threatening. Okay? The child will, when a child can talk about what's bothering, but sometimes it comes from a home atmosphere. I don't want to, but sometimes at the home maybe there's tension, maybe there's money problems, maybe there's sickness, maybe parents are overwhelmed. This is very normal today, yeah? We live in a world where people are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed, yeah? And I don't have quick solutions for that. And then that parents aren't even aware. I'll tell you a little story. A kid, true story. A kid, in kindergarten. So each kid has a chance every week to make Kiddush Friday morning for his class. So usually a kid gets up and says, "Read." One kid got up and said, "Boy, that's such a hard week." He thought that was part of Kiddush. I know. Everybody here knows who you are, and they know who your daughter is. As a little community, I'm not insinuating anything. And it might not even be true, but the kid may feel that way. If there's worry about money. So that, that trickles down. My friends, money's not an issue. Kids have to feel secure. If there isn't enough money for something, so you say that there isn't enough money for something. Yeah? Kids are into nonverbal communication. Kids say, "Don't worry, everything will be okay. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. It'll be all right. I'll tell you that." It doesn't go. Okay? But sometimes at home, people can help themselves. I don't think kids are listening. Again, I'm not saying anything about, but sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's social in a classroom. That a kid doesn't have friends or someone's picking on him. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes he feels a younger sibling is more loved. Don't ever take sides in a fight. Even if you have saw it on closed circuit television, everything. And you know who's right and who's wrong. Don't take sides. You have to separate. You have to problem solve. But don't take sides. Why? There's a big rule in life. Everyone thinks they're right. So when that 5-year-old hit his 3-year-old sister, you know why he hit her? She walked into my room and looked at my Lego. Do you know what she deserved for looking at my Lego? And now Mommy's coming down on me, Mommy loves my 3-year-old sister more than she loves me and his 4-year-old brain. And when he's 6, it's already a given. So don't ever take, it's worth coming in tonight just for that. Don't take sides. Separate, protect, prevent, but don't take sides. One more question. Yes?
Rabbi, my girls are 2.5 and 5. Their favorite word is no.
Okay.
How do I know I'm doing a good job?
First of all, the 2-year-old knows that's his language. Yeah. What I would do is stop setting up direct confrontations. Don't give her a chance to say no. to say, generally we try and get things done quickly and easily. So what do? You give an order. You tell we have to do this, we have to do that, right? And so you have not given her the opportunity to say no. Now what do? You understand? You can say to her either, we can come in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes to supper, your choice. So what you gonna do?
No.
Or if she said no to that, you say, well, come in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If you don't come, I'll have to start clearing off the table. And tell her what you're going to do. No to you? I mean, you know, she can do what she wants. Whatever she does, if she doesn't do one of these things, then you can start cleaning. Go, yeah, we know. I learned I taught female principals, about 30 female principals, Sunday morning, whenever that was. So I found out there's a thing called the ACS. Does that mean anything to any people here? No, so maybe it's just in New York. Yeah? It's when the government agency comes in for abuse, deals with abuse. Yeah? Okay? CPS.
Child Protective
Okay, I think there's
Services.
a different initial.
Well, they might have different.
So you tell the child, I'm not going to abuse you, you'll have supper, you'll have bread, leaven, yogurt, yeah? But I'm not going to give you the pancakes, I'm for sure not going to give you the ice cream. By the way, you want to punish a child, I'm not saying you should give a lot of punishments, because punishments are like antibiotics. The more you use them, the more you have to use them, and they have to up the dose. You want to take someone's ice cream away, take away a teaspoon of the ice cream. That's all. It's the same punishment. It's the same punishment. And then the next night, if you behave yourself, you'll get the teaspoon back. Because that kid is berserk over that lost teaspoon. I'm serious. Well, take all the ice cream away for it. Take a teaspoon away. Yeah? So, don't leave up to them the last word. Because then you get back to the back and forth. Yes, no, yes, no, yes. Then they got you. The kid is defining the relationship. Just tell them, this is what I'm going to have to do. Say, no, you're not going to, you will do it. So there's no room for a no. Okay, we're having 5 minutos.
Beautiful. Okay, so thank you so much, Rabbi Orlowek. So this is what's going on. I would be extremely negligent if I did not point all of you to the back. Peter Dabowski is holding up a sign right now, and he's inviting all of you to our very, very, very important annual gala.